what do you think about Tyson Fury when he says things like, Fury told ESPN on Wednesday that the fight with Joshua was no closer to being finalized. What do you think about that?
Mind games. Can I ask a question?
You can answer it and ask me a question. Answer first and then ask.
Mind games.
Okay. Now you can ask a question.
Now my question is, what do you think about Bob Arum, Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, and Anthony Joshua all saying the same thing? What do you think about that? That the fight is practically done. What do you think about that?
I think that's smoke and mirrors because they've been saying this since June 10th of 2020. And then also it says here that right here it says that the fight would be done in about 2 weeks. And this is February 5th, 2021. And now it's soon to be March 9th, 2021.
Okay.
So I'm totally confused as a fan because what am I supposed to take out of this when the main promoter, Eddie Hearn, says that the fight will be announced in 2 weeks and it's been over a month?
Those are the words of Artman versus Ring IQ. This was very interesting. I was told to watch this. I was probably going to watch it anyway. But it's a good debate, you know. And these were some key moments in the debate, okay? And Artman was asking Ring IQ, well, they've been talking about this fight since June of last year, and they said it'll take about 2 weeks to make, and it was supposed to be announced 2 weeks from February 5th. And now it is, March 9th, because this was yesterday. Okay, well, to Counterpunch. I think I should have been a mediator, but I probably would have ended up, counterpunching. So that's why I'm doing it in this way. I feel that, first off, yes, they've been talking about the June date. Well, they agreed in June. They agreed in principle. When you agree in principle, that means you agree to the major factors of the fight, which was the 50-50 split. A lot of people thought that would be a problem. They thought that Joshua or Team Joshua would feel like they may want 60-40 or 30-70, like someone like Errol Spence demands to Terrence Crawford right now, since the Deontay Wilder negotiations a couple of years prior to that. So they thought that would be a huge factor, but it wasn't. Okay, it was already agreed upon before they even sat down to the negotiation table. However, Tyson Fury did have a fight with Deontay Wilder. Okay, he signed for a third fight in the contract. The loser had the right to activate the rematch clause. And that's exactly what Wilder did. He did that, I think, 3 days after the fight or a week after the fight. It wasn't a long period of time that it took him to figure out if he wanted to get back in there and tangle with Tyson Fury again. Well, unfortunately, the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit, and it stayed, and it's still here. And it pushed that fight back. It pushed that fight back where networks on both ends did not want a certain fight at that particular time, but they had other fights at those times. So, well, that just showed you that they put that in the back of the row as far as, especially on Wilder's end, that Fox really didn't really want to deal with it at that time because they had other fighters that were more marketable at that time, like Danny Garcia and Errol Spence. Okay, now Artman asks, well, hey, it's supposed to be announced 2 weeks after the 5th. Well, 2 weeks after February 5th is what? The 21st, all right? So he's about 2 weeks off. And his thing is, well, why haven't we heard that yet, like Eddie Hearn claims he was going to hear? Which is a reasonable question, but here's the thing. You have to play that both sides. You have to understand that's a two-way street. If you have Wilder saying that, hey, I'm going to release evidence, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, the first thing you would want to know, just being a fan of Wilder, when When are you going to do it? Okay, the cat's out of the bag. We know how Deontay Wilder feels. He thinks that Tyson Fury's dirty. He thinks his people's dirty. He thinks he cheated. He thinks his own trainer cheated. He thinks a lot of things. He thinks a lot of things, and everything that could possibly go wrong with that fight went wrong. Yes, he thought Murphy's Law. He did. Okay? Now, since then, since the fight's not happening or whatnot, or the mediation, and I'll get to that in a second, we haven't heard anything from Wilder as far as dents, scratches in the ear, dents in the head, scratches in the ear, drugged paperwork that he was drugged, that he found some drugs in his system, because that's a rumor. If you guys didn't know, that was a rumor. I found that out talking to a Wilder disciple. What else? That was the main things. Okay. Wilder hasn't produced anything. He hasn't produced, that he will be taking him to court, like I was told. Okay. This ain't nothing I heard. A little later, please. So I heard that was going to be the case, that he was going to go forward with the suing part, with evidence, like all these channels that, all of them that said that, hey, you know what? This is going to happen. This is going to happen. They have evidence. They have a mountain of evidence. You guys heard that. They had so many incriminating things against Tyson Fury that he just need to hang the belt up and just leave, because he knows there's no way with all this evidence that he's going to win a case, because the case is just a open and closed case. He thought that. They had everyone that would want to believe, including this gentleman here. Now, where is the evidence? Where's the factual, tangible evidence that Wilder has? Where is it? Let's move forward.
Go ahead, Julius.
Yes, didn't Eddie Hearn say that the only thing left to do now is sign the contracts?
That's what he said.
So then what
makes
makes
you? When's the fight date? Can you give me a precise fight date?
No, not until they announce it. Why would you ask me for that when you know they haven't announced it?
Because that is considered hearsay, because these guys are just talking, but there's no actual actions.
Wait, all right. It's not hearsay, because when I tell you that Bob Arum, Frank Warren, and Eddie Hearn are all saying the same thing, it's not me saying it, they're saying it. So that makes it a fact. Do you know something about the fight that they don't know?
From a viewer's point, I can see that both of these camps are saying conflicting things. Like the main fighter, I understand that Bob and Eddie are saying something, but I also understand that the main fighter, Tyson Fury, himself is saying that the fight is nowhere near done. And he said this information last week.
Okay.
So we moved on through this debate. Okay. Jules, Ring IQ, mentioned, he mentioned the information that Bob Arum, Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn provided, and saying that the fight, all they have to do is sign it. The minor issues have been resolved, so he needs to sign the contract, and let's have that done so we can make the announcement. Artman was like, okay, where's the announcement? So that's hearsay. We don't have any evidence of action because we haven't heard an announcement, so we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Okay, that's fair play. Because unless you see the contract, and I've always been like this, hey, show me the contract, okay? Now, for me to say I don't believe them based on the fact that it's been 2 weeks since the time they said it would be announced, or a month of the projected date to be moved, that doesn't give me any, not saying it doesn't give me any, but I'm not going to totally rule it out simply because they haven't announced a fight yet. Because if we go back on memory lane, this same thing happened with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury in their first encounter. They claim that fight will be done in a week, and it took them 7 weeks to get that fight done because they were trying to compare that their negotiations, how easy it was for these two, for Fox and what was it at the time? I think it was BT, right? It wasn't even really had to be BT. Fox and Frank Warren and Al Heyman to come together and Shelley Finkel to come together and make that fight. And they claimed it was just that easy to make. Okay, so I was the one that was questioning that. So, hey, fair play to Artman if he doubts on the other side of the streets, so to speak. If he thinks and he doesn't believe that those guys are fighting because of Wilder, he can always say any old day of the week, when is it happening? I was just debating the fact that, hey, it'll take a little while to make negotiations because that's how the process works. It ain't like, hey, we're going to just put ink to paper and that'll be that and the fight is signed and see, we did it faster than Team Joshua and Eddie Hearn because they didn't want the fight anyway. That was the narrative, okay? And that was what they were trying to provide and throw that narrative at the public at that time. But back to Artman saying, well, hey, give me a date. They've been late, so give me a date, okay? Now, at this point, he's in a corner, Artman. Why? Because he's saying that Tyson Fury said, well, that's not the case. But then he debated that Tyson Fury's even credible for the things that come out of his mouth because he's a cheat, because he cheated 5 years ago on some type of drug test that he had too much nandrolone in his body. First off, nandrolone is in everyone's body. He just had elevated effects of it. Okay. Now, Tyson Fury and his cousin were convicted eventually, which was some strange shit by UCAT too. So that was shitty in Denmark. However, he was suspended. Okay. And Artman had, spent this whole time talking about Tyson Fury's legitimacy on things that come out of his mouth. Then you're going to turn around and try to use his words, a liar, so he says, against ring IQ. You know what I mean? And let's continue. Let's see how it unfolds.
Can I ask just one question, just from a mediator standpoint, because I need to understand where you're coming from. Do you consider Tyson Fury's word to be trustworthy?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
No. Can I explain why?
Sure.
Because he's lied about things like eating wild boar when caught with nandrolone in the system. And it's scientifically proven to have that amount of nandrolone in his system, he's going to have to eat a lot of wild boars, which I think is not possible. Even
Can I ask
a man
a
that's
question?
6'9" and, has a coke addiction.
Okay, go ahead, Julius.
Well, didn't you just spend about 10 minutes telling me how Tyson Fury's a liar? So who's to say that Tyson Fury's not lying about this?
I mean, you yourself said that he's a liar because you don't believe that he ate wild boar. So what makes you think he wouldn't lie again?
But you just proved my point. I do think he's lying. You spent 20 minutes attacking his character and saying that you don't believe him because of his history. Well, neither do I. That's what he said. Wait a minute. Don't interrupt me now. I didn't interrupt you.
It's past.
I didn't interrupt you.
Let Julius go. All right, let Julius go. By the way, nice artwork that you're doing there. That's pretty cool, man. Go ahead, Julius.
Well, I do believe that Tyson Fury's a liar, which is why I don't believe what he's saying about the Anthony Joshua fight.
So you don't believe that the fight is happening either?
No, I believe it is happening, and he's the one lying about it.
Wouldn't you think he'll be lying about him not having to fight Wilder again? You don't think he'll be lying about that?
No, but I don't think that Wilder's lying because Wilder's the one who said on the Last Stand podcast last year that he's moving on without Tyson Fury.
Counterpunch. Now, as you guys, like I told you, Artman was in a corner because he spent his whole debate trying to destroy the value of the words of Tyson Fury, then turns around and uses Tyson Fury's words as facts. So if you know he's lying, if you know he's capable of lying, how you know that he's not lying about saying that I don't think it's done? When his own promoter, Frank Warren, said that, hey, it's done. All they have to do is sign. Counterpunch. Now, as far as Tyson Fury having coke addictions, and like Artman said, those are just things that he's heard over the years and just using just to devalue the namesake of Tyson Fury. Yes, the man did drugs. He said he did drugs. But to bring that up and to rehash that over and over again, that's just like saying, hey, Mike Tyson did coke all the time. He's a cokehead. You don't hear that shit a lot, do you? No. But with him, Tyson Fury, you hear certain groups of people talk about Tyson Fury as though he's not better than anyone else that did the shit. Okay? So, but back to this, as to shut this down of what Deontay Wilder said. Deontay Wilder said this, and here's the counterpunch, and I want to add this in here. He said, if we can't get the fight with Tyson Fury, we will move on. Okay? Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, if it was such a stronghold that they had on someone else, other two people fighting, or on Tyson Fury, because that's the guy to be fought due to the contract, he would have said that. He would have said that, hey, he can't fight anybody but me. He would have said that. But he didn't say that. He called out Anthony Joshua. He called out Andy Ruiz. He called these guys out the last time he spoke. Okay, so him saying that, hey, it's not over, nothing's over. No, he just said that, hey, we can move on. We don't need that, this, that, and the other. Which I always thought it was stupid. If you thought a man cheated you twice, why the fuck you want to fight him again? If you think he's such a liar and a cheat and his whole damn race of people or group of people are cheats and they're no good and they can't be trusted, what you fucking with them for? You know what I mean? That just makes you look stupid at the end of the day. Meaning you'll go in there to do what, for what reason? Because if he wins, then you already think that he's a piece of shit. So if he beats you again, how do we know you're not going to say he cheated and he's a piece of shit? So yeah, this was a very interesting debate, but Artman lost bad. He's good at art, but he's not good at debates. His debate stunk, okay? Because he talked himself into a situation where it made him look stupid. If you notice when he said, yeah, I think he's a liar. Well, if you think he's a liar about one thing, couldn't he be lying about everything? You see what I'm saying? Including not fighting, including everything. So you can't trust this man for what he says. That's your point. So if your point is you can't trust this man because he's a liar and a cheat, okay, so why would you believe something he says? It makes no sense. None at all. But it was interesting to hear that debate go about. And there should be a poll, if there is a poll. I don't know if there is one. I'll find one if there is. But I just thought it was interesting to see two sides duke it out. And I think everybody, if anybody has a debate, because I'm all about debates. That's what, the boxing forums are created about. Some of them are just cults and they just want you to throw them money and kiss their ass and agree with what they say. If you don't, they will block you like you're in some kind of cult church or something. But the other forums welcomes debates. That's what I love about this particular interview, because it wasn't any bashing or not too much bashing, but it wasn't anything like that. It was a debate, clean and simple. And you guys tell me what you think about it. I'll leave the link below to let you guys check out this debate in its entirety. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.